It was just another quiet evening at a small bar on the edge of a dusty town. The neon lights flickered. A slow song played on the old jukebox. Regulars sat in their usual spots, drinking beer and sharing stories no one cared to remember. That night. The door creaked open. A man stepped in. He was tall, wearing a black jacket, jeans, and boots. His face was calm, almost too calm. He had deep eyes that had seen things, but no one in the bar knew that. Not yet. He was a black man, and in this part of town that still meant something to the wrong kind of people. The bartender, a rough-looking guy in his 50s, gave him a slow stare. "Can I help you?" he asked. The man nodded. "Just a glass of water. Maybe a cola." The bartender raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He poured the drink and slid it across the counter. The man didn't look scared. He didn't look weak. He just sat quietly, sipping his cola, watching the room without saying a word. That made people uncomfortable, especially the three bikers sitting near the back. They were loud, tattoos up their arms, leather jackets. They laughed at their own jokes, hit the table hard, and looked like they owned the place. One of them noticed the stranger. "Look who just walked in," he said, smirking. "Wrong side of town, buddy?" The second one added, louder now. The third one leaned forward. "Hey, man, you lost or just stupid?" The stranger didn't reply. He didn't turn his head. He kept sipping his drink slowly, eyes steady. That silence made them angrier. "Two. Good to talk?" the first biker barked, standing up. He walked over, towering above the man. "You hear me? I said this ain't your place." The stranger looked up finally. "I heard you," he said calmly. The biker leaned closer. "Then why are you still here?" The whole bar had gone silent now. Everyone watched. Some were waiting for a fight. Others hoped the stranger would leave. No one wanted trouble, but they all knew it was coming. The stranger set his glass down, gently. "I came here for a quiet drink," he said. "I didn't come for this." The biker laughed. "You came for trouble the moment you walked in that door." Still, the man didn't move. Then, without warning, the biker slapped the drink. Off the counter, glass shattered. Cola spilled across the wood. The stranger didn't flinch. He looked up slowly and said in a cold, steady voice, "You don't want to do this." The biker laughed louder. "Oh, I really do." He reached out to grab the man's shirt, but before anyone could blink, the biker was on the ground. 1 second he was standing. The next, he was flat on his back, gasping for air. No one saw the move. It was too fast. The other two bikers stood up quickly, shocked. The stranger didn't gloat. He didn't even look angry. He stood up and said one thing. That was a warning. "Walk away." The second biker stepped forward, fists clenched. "You think you're tough, huh? You just made a big mistake." The stranger took a step forward. Not fast, not aggressive, just calm. "I made mistakes before," he said. "This wasn't one of them." The door to the bar opened again, but this time no one turned. All eyes were on the stranger. He reached into his jacket. People froze, but he only pulled out a few bills, dropped them on the counter, and walked toward the exit. Everyone watched him leave. The bartender finally spoke. "Who the hell was that guy?" No one had the answer, but one old man in the corner, who'd watched the whole thing quietly, whispered something no one else caught. "He's not just some guy. That one's been through war." The scene faded, leaving behind silence and spilled cola. Who was this man? Why did he move like a soldier? Why? Did he warn them before defending himself? And what was he running from? The questions were just beginning. So was the story. The bar slowly returned to normal after the stranger left, but no one could forget what happened. The biker who got knocked down, named Rex, sat at the table holding his ribs. His pride was hurt, more than his body. His two friends, Tank and Duke, stood around him, angry and confused. "Did you see that?" Rex growled. "He made me look weak, in front of everyone." He was fast, Tank said, still shocked. Too fast for a regular guy. Duke nodded. No way that man's just some traveler. He moved like military. Rex slammed his fist on the table. I don't care if he's military, police, or Superman. I want revenge. The three bikers stormed out of the bar into the night. Rex looked down the road, but the stranger was already gone. Let's find him, he said. Let's teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, the stranger walked alone down the quiet street. His steps were calm, but his mind was heavy. He didn't want trouble. Not again. He entered a small old motel and booked a room under a fake name. The woman at the front desk didn't ask questions. She could tell he wasn't in the mood for talk. Inside the room, he sat on the edge of the bed staring at the wall. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a small worn photo. It showed him in military uniform with two other men beside him, smiling, arms around each other. They were younger then, alive, hopeful, but now only he remained. The room's silence was broken by the sound of a phone ringing. Not his phone. It was the old motel landline on the wall. The stranger hesitated, then answered. A voice spoke. We saw what happened at the bar. We know it's you. He froze. It's time to stop hiding. The world still needs you. The man said nothing. Then slowly he hung up the phone. Back in town, the bikers were searching everywhere, street by street, asking around. He's not from here, Duke said. He must be staying somewhere. Check every motel, Rex growled. Every alley, every diner. We find him tonight. As they searched, the anger inside Rex grew stronger. It wasn't just about being embarrassed anymore. It was about power, control. No one was supposed to make them look weak. Later that night, the stranger walked out of the motel for a breath of air. The sky was dark, the moon covered by clouds. He stood near a quiet alley, leaning against the wall. That's when he heard footsteps. He didn't move. He already knew. Three shadows stepped into the alley. Rex, Tank, Duke. There you are, Rex said, smiling with rage. Took us a while. The stranger didn't look surprised. I told you to walk away, he said softly. You humiliated me, Rex growled. Now I'll break you. The three circled him like wolves. Tank pulled out. A metal pipe. Duke cracked his knuckles. Rex raised a chain. Still, the stranger didn't run, didn't beg, didn't even look scared. He just said, You're not ready for what you're about to face. Then it began. Tank swung first. The stranger dodged easily, grabbed Tank's wrist, and flipped him over in one move. The pipe clanged to the ground. Duke rushed in with a punch. The stranger caught it mid-air and twisted Duke's arm behind his back. One push, and Duke hit the wall groaning. Now only Rex stood. He stared at the stranger, now breathing calmly, eyes locked. You don't know who I am, Rex spat. And you don't know who I was, the man replied. Rex charged with the chain, but within seconds, he was disarmed, knocked to his knees, and gasping for air again. This time, the stranger stood over him and said, I didn't come here to fight, but if you bring war to my door, I'll finish it. He walked away, leaving all three men on the ground, bruised and stunned. That night, the news breaks. A grainy video from someone's phone at the bar starts to go viral. It shows the stranger flipping Rex like it was nothing. The caption reads, Who is this guy? One man versus three bikers. At a small office somewhere across the state, a woman watches the video on her laptop. She zooms in on the stranger's face. Her eyes widen. She picks up the phone. I found him. He's alive. The next morning, the town was buzzing. The video of the bar fight had spread everywhere, shared by locals, posted on social media, and replayed on small news websites. People were calling the stranger the Shadow Fighter. No one knew his name, but everyone wanted to. At the bar, the bartender cleaned broken glass and watched the video over and over. "Who is this guy?" he whispered. At a nearby garage, Rex sat on a chair with an ice pack on his shoulder. His pride was shattered. His gang had never lost a fight, until now. Tank had a bruised jaw. Duke had bandages on his arm. They were quiet. Rex suddenly stood up. "I'm not letting this go," he said with fire in his eyes. "Rex, maybe we should—" Duke started, but Rex cut him off. "No! He humiliated us. People are laughing at us." He pointed at the TV screen. "They're calling him the hero in our town?" Rex walked to a shelf and pulled down a box. Inside were weapons, brass knuckles, knives, chains. "We do this our way," Rex growled. "No mistakes, no warnings." Tank and Duke looked unsure. "We don't even know who he is," Tank said. Rex stared out the window, a wicked smirk on his face. "Then we find out." Meanwhile, the stranger, whose name still remained unknown, stood near a quiet riverbank just outside of town. He wore a black hoodie and watched the water flow. He had always found peace near water. It reminded him of balance, something he hadn't felt in years. Suddenly, a soft voice behind him spoke. "I knew it was you." He turned slowly. It was a woman, mid-30s, wearing glasses, holding a folder. He knew her face. "Sophia?" She smiled, gently. "It's been a long time, Elijah." That was his name. Elijah. He hadn't heard it spoken in years. "I told them you were alive," she said. "But no one believed me. You vanished after the operation in Kandahar." Elijah turned back to the river. "I wasn't ready to come back," he said. Sophia walked closer. "But you're needed now. You saw what happened last night. People are watching, and more eyes are coming." He looked down. "I don't want attention." "You don't have a choice anymore," she replied. "Your face is already out there. They're looking." Back in town, Rex and his gang weren't wasting time. They showed the bar fight video to people, offered money for. The next morning, the motel was quiet. The broken window had been taped up. The air still smelled like smoke. Elijah stood by the window, watching the sun rise. His eyes looked tired, but his body stood strong. He hadn't slept. Sophia sat at the small table, flipping through her folder. "You saved me last night," she said softly. Elijah didn't turn around. "I didn't want to." Sophia looked up. "What do you mean?" "I didn't want to fight again. I didn't want to feel that anger again." There was a long silence. Then Sophia stood and walked over to him. "You were a hero once, Elijah." He finally turned to her, eyes cold. "That man is gone." Flashback. Years ago in Kandahar, Elijah ran through a dusty street, gun in hand, his team behind him. They were chasing a known arms dealer. The mission was supposed to be simple, but it turned into a trap. One explosion, one wrong turn. 3 soldiers died that day. 2 were Elijah's closest friends, Marcus and Devon. He had pulled their bodies from the wreckage, burned and broken. He never forgave himself. Present day, Elijah sat on the motel bed holding the same worn-out photo he always carried. Him, Marcus, and Devon, smiling, happy. He clenched it tightly. Sophia sat beside him. "You didn't fail them," she said gently. "I should have died with them," Elijah whispered. "No," Sophia replied. "You survived because you still have a purpose." Meanwhile, across town, Rex sat in a dark basement. Bandages covered his face and chest. He stared at the wall, full of rage. "He humiliated me again," he growled. "Twice." Tank and Duke sat nearby, both quiet, both afraid. Rex grabbed his phone and dialed a number. "He's stronger than we thought," he said. "We need backup." The voice on the other side replied coldly. "We'll take care of it. We've been watching him, too." Rex smiled, a dangerous smile. "Good, let's end him." Later that day, Sophia made some tea while Elijah sat in silence. Then, suddenly, a knock at the door. Elijah stood quickly. Sophia peeked through the curtain. Just a boy, holding something. Elijah opened the door slowly. A boy around 12 years. Old stood there, nervous. He handed Elijah an envelope and ran off without a word. Elijah opened it. Inside was a photo, a military base, a red X over his face, and one sentence written in black ink. "We know who you are." "And we're coming." Sophia's eyes widened. "They're not just some bikers, are they?" Elijah shook his head slowly. "No, they're part of something bigger." That night Elijah and Sophia sat in the motel room with the lights off. They had packed their bags. It was time to move. "Elijah," Sophia said, "what really happened in Kandahar?" He looked at her. "There was a mission," he said. "We were supposed to stop an arms deal, but we found something else." "What?" Elijah hesitated. "Something the government didn't want anyone to know." Sophia leaned forward. "You mean you were silenced?" Elijah nodded. "They said if I talked, people would die, so I disappeared." Suddenly, boom, a loud explosion rocked the motel. Glass shattered. Alarms rang. Elijah grabbed Sophia and pulled her to the ground. More explosions outside. Fire. Screaming. "They found us," he said. He helped Sophia out the back door into the woods behind the motel. Gunshots echoed behind them. "This isn't just revenge anymore," Sophia said, running beside him. "No," Elijah replied. "They want me erased at a hidden cabin." Elijah led Sophia to a small wooden cabin deep in the forest. Dusty, old, but safe, for now. "This was my old safe house," he explained. Inside, the walls were lined with files, maps, and weapons. Sophia looked around in shock. "You were really preparing for something like this?" Elijah nodded. "I knew one day the past would find me. The truth starts to surface." Sophia opened one of the folders and gasped. "These are Black Ops missions. Hidden files. Names of powerful people." Elijah stared at her. "And now, they know I still have them." Sophia looked serious. "We need to expose them. This isn't just your fight anymore." Elijah clenched his fists. "No, but it started with me, and I'm going to finish it." The forest was quiet. Only the soft sound of leaves blowing in the wind could be heard outside the old wooden cabin. Inside, Elijah and Sophia sat on the floor surrounded by files, maps, and photos. The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming, and they were sitting in the center of it. Sophia held one of the folders with shaking hands. "Elijah, this is huge. These names, these operations, they go all the way to Washington." Elijah didn't say anything. His eyes stayed focused on a photo in his hand. It was a man in a suit, smiling at a podium. "Senator Holloway," Elijah finally said. Sophia looked at him. "You knew him?" "He led the mission in Kandahar. He gave the orders, and he covered up the truth." Flashback: Kandahar, a desert. Soldiers in camouflage. Gunfire in the distance. Elijah and his team were clearing a compound when they found something they were never supposed to see. Children in cages. Weapons labeled with U.S. military tags. A hidden lab. They had proof that a government official was selling weapons and using innocent people as test subjects. Elijah recorded everything, but when they reported it, their call was ignored, and the next day, their convoy exploded. Back. In the cabin, Elijah placed the photo of Senator Holloway on the table. "They tried to kill us, to silence us," Sophia whispered. "You think Holloway ordered the hit?" "I don't think," Elijah replied. "I know." Sophia stood up, pacing. "We need to take this to someone, a reporter, a lawyer, somebody." Elijah shook his head. "No one will believe us without more proof. These papers are old. These files are half burnt. We need something stronger. Sophia's face lit up. The flash drive. Do you still have it? Elijah reached into his bag and pulled out a small metal drive. This has everything from that mission. Videos, audio, documents. He looked at her seriously. If this gets out, it could take down powerful people, but they'll come after us. Hard. Meanwhile, in a dark office miles away, a man in a black suit watched Elijah's motel explosion on a screen. He didn't flinch. He's still alive, the man said. A younger agent stood behind him. Do you want us to send more? The man nodded. This time, no mistakes. Find the girl, find the files, and end this. That night in the cabin, Elijah sat near the window, watching the moon. Sophia placed a blanket over her shoulders and sat beside him. You still think you're alone in this? She asked. Elijah didn't answer. Sophia leaned closer. You saved lives back then, and now you're doing it again. He looked at her, his voice soft. I just wanted to disappear, to live in peace. But peace doesn't exist for people like me. She smiled. Then maybe it's time to stop running. Elijah looked at the flash drive. I'll need help. The plan begins. The next morning, Elijah and Sophia drove to a nearby city under fake names. They met with an old friend, Malik, a former hacker who now worked at a small tech shop. You still hiding from the government? Malik joked, hugging. Elijah gave him the flash drive. I need this decrypted. Safely. Quietly. Malik frowned. This is heavy stuff, man. If I do this, I'm all in. Elijah nodded. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't life or death. Hours later, the screen glowed in the dark room. Files opened. Video clips played, gunfire, explosions, Senator Holloway's voice giving orders. Proof, everything they needed. Malik looked at them. This is enough to bring down a whole network. Elijah stood. Then let's do it. But they weren't alone outside. The tech shop, a black car parked across the street. Two men stepped out. Dark glasses. Earpieces. They spoke into their radios. We found them. Waiting for backup. Inside, Sophia felt a chill. Someone's watching us, she whispered. Elijah peeked through the window. His jaw tightened. They found us again. The sky was turning dark. Elijah stood still, staring out the window of the small tech shop. Across the street, a black car sat like a shadow waiting to strike. He knew that car. Not the plate, not the make, but the silence. That kind of silence only came before something dangerous. Pack it up, he said sharply. Now. Sophia looked, up from the computer screen. What's wrong? They're here, Elijah replied. The ones who don't ask twice. Inside the tech shop, Malik quickly grabbed the flash drive and shut the laptop. He handed it to Elijah. I backed it all. Up! This one's clean. But if they take this place, everything else goes with it. Elijah nodded. We'll make sure they don't. Suddenly, a loud knock on the shop door. 3 sharp bangs. Malik's eyes widened. That's not the police. Elijah motioned for Sophia to move behind the counter. Then he stepped toward the door, his hand slowly reaching into his coat. Outside, 2 men stood tall, wearing black suits, clean, calm, but their eyes were cold. One held a file in his hand, pretending to be official. We're looking for someone, he said through the glass. Just routine. Elijah didn't answer. He looked around. There was a back door, but they'd be expecting that. He took a breath. Time to think like a soldier again. Stall them, he whispered to Malik. 3 minutes. What are you going to do? Malik asked. Elijah looked at him. Set a trap. Back inside the shop, Elijah led Sophia and Malik to the basement. It was small and filled with old computer parts. He moved quickly, pulling wires, adjusting lights, and setting up what looked like a camera trap. If they break in, the smoke system triggers. No one sees anything for 5 minutes. Sophia looked, confused. And we? Elijah lifted a small door panel from the floor. We crawl out the service tunnel. Above ground, the break-in. The two men outside grew tired of waiting. They kicked the door open and rushed in, guns drawn. But the moment their boots hit the floor, boom. A loud snap triggered a smoke bomb, filling the shop with thick gray fog. They coughed and cursed, waving their hands blindly. But Elijah, Sophia, and Malik were already crawling out under the flue. The farmhouse shook as more bullets crashed through the wooden walls. Elijah moved fast, guiding Sophia and Malik into a small crawl space behind the kitchen. His instincts were sharp. He had been in worse situations, but this one felt personal. Very personal. This is our last stand, he said, loading his weapon. Do we have any backup? Malik asked, panicked. Elijah looked at him and gave a short nod. One man. If he shows up, we might have a chance. Outside the farmhouse, 6 black SUVs surrounded the old building. Armed men in tactical gear moved in, silent and focused. Their faces were covered, but they were trained killers. No questions, no second chances. Team A, take the back. Team B, breach the front. He's not leaving alive, the leader said into his headset. They didn't know Elijah was listening. He had tapped into their comms, using an old radio frequency only a Navy SEAL would remember. He smiled slightly. They think they're hunting a ghost. Inside, the plan begins. Sophia checked the files one more time. The flash drive was still safe, tucked in her jacket. The information on it, names, crimes, locations, could take down half a government. Elijah, she whispered, if we don't make it, we'll make it, he said firmly. She looked him in the eyes. Why do you care so much about this? You could have disappeared forever. He paused. Because I wasn't just trained to fight. I was trained to protect. And if I stay silent, I'm no better than them. Suddenly, a blast boom! The front door exploded. Smoke and fire filled the hallway. Elijah rolled to the side, pulling Sophia and Malik behind him. Gunshots rang out. He returned fire. 1 shot, 2 shots, fast and clean. 2 attackers dropped. Still more poured in. But just as one soldier aimed at Sophia, a shot echoed from the trees. The attacker fell. A shadow emerges from the woods. A man stepped out. Tall, silent, powerful. He wore an old military jacket and carried a long-range sniper rifle. Elijah, the man called. Elijah grinned. The man nodded. You always did get into the worst trouble. This was Raymond, Elijah's old commander. A man with secrets of his own. A man who vanished after they uncovered the truth in Kandahar. I got your message, Raymond said, and I brought friends. Backup arrives. 3 more former soldiers appeared behind Raymond, all in tactical gear. Within minutes, they surrounded the farmhouse and took out the remaining attackers one by one. The enemy, confused and outnumbered, fell back. Raymond grabbed the leader by the collar. Tell your boss, we're coming for him. Then he knocked the man out cold. The road to truth. The next morning, Elijah, Sophia, Malik, and Raymond stood together at a local news station. They gave the flash drive to an investigative journalist live on air. Within hours, it went viral. Government corruption, secret missions, innocent lives lost. A senator involved in war crimes. The world finally saw the truth. Senator Holloway arrested at his office in D.C. Senator Holloway was handcuffed and taken away by federal agents. The same man who tried to silence Elijah was now silenced by justice. His face, once proud, was now pale and defeated. The headlines read, War hero exposes deep government conspiracy, truth finally comes out. The aftermath back in the quiet hills, Elijah stood on the porch of the farmhouse. Sophia brought him coffee. They want to interview you, she said. News channels, podcasts. Even the president wants to meet you." Elijah smiled faintly. "I didn't do it for fame." "I know," she said. "But you did something no one else could." Malik stepped out, holding his phone. "You've gone viral. Over 10 million views in one night." Elijah looked out at the sunset. "I just want peace. That's all I ever wanted."